Welcome back, sparkling humans, to another episode of Ignite Your Spark. I'm your host, Kim Duff Selby. Thank you so much for tuning in week after week, because I'm just assuming you're tuning in week after week. Let's put that out there in the universe. If you know me, you know that I like to speak truths and be grateful because I want more of that in the world. And my goal here is to ignite a spark within you so that you can shine your light to the world to encourage others to shine their light. And I have the most incredible guests that will ignite your spark. And today's guest is no exception. Today, I have Dave Conway. And you may have heard of him, maybe not. He's one of the foremost leaders in the mindset coaching and consulting arena. Now, his journey into studying this area of life began when he was merely an 18-year-old who attended one of Bob Proctor's workshops on the paradigm shift. He then began his foray and study into spiritual and mental sciences. He worked for Bob Proctor for quite some time, and today he has coached and is coaching thousands of clients through his company, Conway Consulting, and he helps people level up their mindset, their business, and their results. And I do love this quote from his website. He coaches people to release energy by increasing their service to others. Because the truth is, not everybody gets sold, but everybody must be served. And I believe that, Dave. We are here in service of others. So thank you for joining me in service of those listening.
I love it. Thanks so much, Kim. And yeah, your energy is contagious. So you're the sparkling spark of them all, I think.
Well, I think that we act how we want others to act. And that's just my natural way of being, but I prefer to be around positive, upbeat, happy people. Now, I know there's not a lot of people who want to be around depressing people, but I happen to really want to be around happy people. So that's my goal, ignite those sparks.
I love it.
Dave, before we begin, I would like to know, how do you ignite your spark?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's maybe two things. I love serving people. Being able to take myself to another level so that I can move a certain energy across the table into that individual so that they benefit from that energy. I think that lights me up more than anything else. And the understanding that, we're all spiritual beings. So we're spiritual being, we have an intellect, and we live in a physical body. And if I can help another individual remove what I call the paradigm that's calcified the spirit, if I can help someone remove that so they can actually express themselves to a greater degree, then without question, that lights me up more. That's my mission. That's all I do all day.
And it's a wonderful way to be and live and think and do. It's such a gift that you have uncovered within yourself to be able to release that energy in others. And since you were 18 when you first discovered Bob Proctor, I'm curious as to your mindset prior to attending that workshop, because at 18, most people are just like, at least in the States, going to university, looking for the next frat party, not thinking I'm suffering, there's something more to life, or maybe they are. I can't speak generally. I can just speak to what I know of 18-year-olds, and I've raised a couple of them,
Yeah, so prior to that, so it's really interesting. My whole life, I think I've always known, I've always known that there was something else behind what you see. My mother always had a very heightened intuition, and I believe I received that from her. I've always had an intuition. I've always had this feeling. I used to get in trouble a lot at school, actually, and there'd be some teachers like, Dave, even when I was in elementary school, just a kid, they'd be like, why don't you listen to me? And I'll be like, do you really want to know? And it's like, yes, I do. And it's like, okay, well, I don't trust you, or I don't like you. And I would say, and I used to get suspended from school and stuff like that. And I said, well, they asked, so my mother, my whole life, my mother was the only person that ever really understood me, truthfully. I never really felt like I was understood. It's not like I was some cast. I actually was very, very friendly. A lot of people, had a lot of friends, got along with everybody. But I always could see through whatever the physical eye could see. I don't know if we'd call that a gift or what we would call that, but that's always been a part of my life. So when I was 18 years old, my mom's friend, Marianne Brennan, and we're from Ireland originally. We live in Canada, but we're originally from Ireland, all of us. Actually, today is our anniversary in Canada today. Isn't that cool?
Really? How many years?
89. So what are we at? 89. November 30th, 89. So long time.
Oh.
Yeah, 11, 20, 34 years, is it?
I should have said top of the morning to you, but it's not
You
morning.
should have.
I should have, but I didn't.
Yeah. So yeah, my mom had a friend, Marianne, and said, hey, there's some guy speaking at the Travelodge Hotel. And it was the first, last, and only time this guy was ever there. And she said, you should come, you should bring your sons. So my mom being open, and she ended up bringing me. I don't remember if she forced me to go or if I willingly went. I don't really know. My mom used to force me to do the right thing a lot. Actually, she used to hold that moral standard all the time. And so I went there, and yeah, that gentleman was Bob Proctor. So this is like before The Secret, before the world knew him as the world knows him today. And the crazy thing is that actually a lot of people in the world still don't know him, which is unbelievable. In my opinion, it's unbelievable. And yes, we went. I'd never heard anybody talk like that, Kim, in my entire life. I had a lot of teachers. I had a lot of, I used to play soccer, I had coaches, had adult influences in my life, had many, many influences like everyone does. I'd never heard anybody talk like that in my entire life. And I was I felt like I was home. So prior to that, I never really felt comfortable like in my environments. But when I heard him talk, I was like, wow, this is incredible. Now, unfortunately, I always say that day didn't change my life, but it did change the direction of my life. So what it did for me was it showed me a world that I previously didn't know existed. And I think that's very important. I think that's really, really important awareness to have, that there is higher worlds. There is a better world that does exist, and you can live in it. So that night didn't change my life, but it did change the direction of my life.
Well, it often takes something like that, or a person. And I think there are those of us, I always had a lot of friends as well. And I've interviewed so many people, and we've all felt like, even as young children, we were different. There was something different. It seems you felt the same way. Anybody who is intuitive, who is disruptive in classes.
Yeah.
Right there with you. You're right. I never got suspended because I was a goody two shoes, but I talked all the time. I talked all the time because I knew more than they did, Right. I didn't, but I did in certain ways. And I think it's important for people to acknowledge and realize that if you feel different, you are different, and it's okay. And because we all have something unique inside of us. And it's really lovely that you were able to tap into that at a young age. What did you do after that? Did you dive right into the Bob Proctor universe, or did you go to university, or how did you get to your consulting company today?
Yeah, so that was a 15-year journey from that day. Yeah, once I heard Bob speak, my interest in the information was basically insatiable. Like I couldn't satisfy it. And for the next 3 years, I would travel around. Back when we used to be partners with John Canary, I went to all the You Were Born Riches, Science of Getting Riches. My mom brought me to all that stuff. There's actually this one point, and this is crazy. There's this one point where like I had this deep fear that I was meant to become a priest. And it was a fear. It was like, I was like, yeah, it was a fear. Like I was like, and I don't think this is uncommon. And so what I did was I was like, well, I don't really want to be a priest, but so I started calling churches, And I went to go sit down with the priests. And, the first priest I met, and, I didn't really feel satisfied with his answers. And then the second one I went to go meet, and I didn't really feel satisfied with his answer. And then the third one, I'll never forget it. It was in this hospital, St. Paul's Hospital in Saskatoon, where I live. And they had this little teeny chapel, I think it was on the third floor. And behind it, there was the priest's little office. And so I ended up meeting with him. I don't remember his name, but I sat down with him in his den, and I started asking about the priest. And I said, "How did you know you wanted to be a priest?" And he said, "Well, I always knew."
Mm.
And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, there's something in me, like, I don't feel it's a God. I feel it's a fear." I was like, "That I'm meant to be a priest." He's like, "Well, do you want to be a priest?" And I said, "No." And then he was like, "Oh, then you're not meant to be one." I said, "Oh, thank God."
Isn't
Thank
that
God.
funny? Sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need that external person to just give us permission, even though we know you knew.
Yeah, I knew.
But for him to actually say it, a priest, someone whom you were brought up to recognize as a divine authority, was able to give you permission to go, it's okay, you don't have to be one.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, thank you, Father." It's like, I didn't remember that. Anyway, so yeah, I started the journey of just really going into what I would call today's spiritual mental sciences. And I went around, I was still trying to find my place. Like I would go to church every day, Catholic church. I'm from Ireland originally, so that's what you are. You're a Catholic.
Oh, yeah.
If you're an Irish male, you're a Catholic and you have a drinking problem. You got both. And yeah, seriously. And yeah, so I would go and I'd meet with the youth groups there, and I never felt like you were saying, I know more than you, but I know I don't, but at the same time I actually do. And I just never found that. So I kept journeying and journeying, and it was a lonely journey. Like the journey was primarily on my own, outside of conversations I would have with my mom. And that journey went from basically with Bob from like 18 to 21 years old. And then I went from 21 to 33 kind of on my own. And in 2015, so that would have been 2002, 2015, we're talking about 13 years later, I had this experience that actually really scared me a lot. So I was in construction at the time, doing a job I didn't like. So I'll show you my level of awareness. And because even when I saw Bob at 18, I wanted to do that. Obviously, I just didn't understand what the heck he was talking about, or else I could have manifested that. So that's show you the ignorance that, now I know it's called a paradigm, but, I was an ignorant guy. Anyway, so we were doing this project. There was this building inspector. I felt he was being like a douchebag or whatever. I felt he was being an asshole. And I got so angry at him that I actually physically wanted to like harm him.
Ooh.
And this is not good, right?
No.
Like we're talking, no, it's not good. We're talking almost, we're talking 13 years into this information, and that happened. And one of our guys that worked for us ran out of the house. He actually physically had to hold me back. And that scared me because that didn't fit. Like that didn't fit. Like here I am, I know better, but I'm not doing better. And that started this feeling inside, like it was almost like a drum beating in my head, like you are actually destined for something more. Even back then when I used to tell people like, oh, they're like, "What do you do for a living?" And I say, "Oh, I'm a general contractor." I just felt like I was lying to them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I felt like I was lying to them because inside that's not the real me. And that led to 2 more years. So I lived fairly frustrated life from 2015 to 2017. Very, very frustrated, very dissatisfied. I would call myself unhappy, unhealthy, and if this is a word, unwealthy. I had fallen into the trap, and I didn't know this at the time, but I fall into the trap. A part of my paradigm or my belief system, unknowing to me, was just work harder. And I got to the point where I worked so much and so hard that at 33 years old, when I used to go down the stair of our home, and I'm married, I've got a beautiful wife and 2 beautiful daughters. I started actually rubbing the paint off the banister because my physical body was in that bad a shape. So in 2017, this idea came into my mind. I was like, I wonder if Bob Proctor's still doing his thing. And I went online, I looked it up. He had an event called the Paradigm Shift in Los Angeles in May of 2017. Bought a ticket for my wife and I. At the back of the plane, general admission, okay, the cheapest way I could get there because I was a cheapskate. That was the most painful weekend of my entire life. I had a spiritual experience there. And what happened to me, I actually got to live outside of myself for about 3 days after. And the world was still flowing in because law of cause and effect, same phone calls, same people in my life, but I was dramatically different. And I couldn't believe, Kim, I could not believe I used to live like that. And I break my life into two lives. I break my life into before 2017 and then after 2017.
You talk a lot about mindset. That's a big buzzword, and manifestation. I love me some good manifestation. Let's talk about that, because that is at the heart of what I'm hearing you say too, because you were living in that same mindset, the same things were coming in, but you changed. And would you say that you manifested a new change, or what caused that shift? I know that the paradigm shift, the workshop, is intended to do that, but I'd like to tell people, some tips and tricks, and how you can't hear it enough, basically, how any suggestions on how we can change that mindset or how we manifest more. Let's go into that a little bit.
Yeah, I'd love to. So what we want to understand is that the word mindset. So originally in the beginning, like when I started this work, I really had a problem even saying mindset, because once you say the word mind to anyone that has ever heard the word mind, they're going to begin to think that they know what that is. And let's get honest, no one knows what the mind is. So a mindset, what we need to understand that our mind is already set. And I got invited to speak at I get invited to speak at certain groups, and it's always interesting because a lot of times I don't know what this group is all about before I speak. And I've landed in a couple what they call woo-woo groups or whatever. And I think, oh, cool, this is a woo-woo group, which I'm perfectly fine with. I was like, interesting. And I remember there was this one lady at one of them. It was a money mindset one. And there's this one lady who they were all celebrating because she'd manifested a new car. And I said, wow, that's wonderful. And I asked her, I was like, could you do it again? Like, if I asked you to do it again this week, could you manifest another car this week? And her confidence dropped. And I was like, well, that's because you don't know how you did it. You see, there's a creative process in everything. And then I asked everyone in the group, I was like, who here would like to manifest money? And everyone's like, oh, me. Yeah, I'll ask you, Kim. Kim, would you like to manifest more money?
Yes, please.
And then I said, well, just write down however much money you earn, and that's how much you're manifesting.
Right.
And I said, what you really want is you want to learn, and the key word is learn how to manifest more money. And the key word is learn. You see, there's nothing in this universe that is something for nothing. So I think one of the reasons, and I'll share a process with everyone as well, I think one of the reasons that manifestation and this stuff can get a bad rap, it's because inside of it, a lot of the teachings of it is like something for nothing. And it's not something for nothing. It's something for everything. This whole universe operates by law. And one of the major laws is the law of cause and effect. You cannot get anything unless you are a match to that thing. So I believe that true manifestation is manifesting a new version of yourself. So once we set the goals, so step one would be to sit down and ask yourself, what do I really want? And I actually have a 21-day manifestation challenge that we could share. You can go on conway.consulting if anybody wants it, and totally free. And it's a 21-day challenge where I actually teach people how to bring something that they would really like to bring into their life in the next 21 days. And that's how I live my life. I literally just say, what would I like in my life the next 21 days? And then I follow this process, focus on it. It has never failed me.
Beautiful.
And I've never had to wait 21 days either.
I have heard that, Dave, that it is, well, I know that you have to live at, and in the woo term, because we talk woo here, is the vibrational level to my mind, you have to really believe, achieve, and then receive. Believe it and live in it. And I know that when I'm living in it, when I'm feeling abundant, that it comes. It just does, because I have manifested that feeling. And I don't know if that's the right way of saying it. And I'm going to go on and do that because I love a good manifestation challenge.
And what it does is it helps you with your imagination, building the mental pictures. I should hit to the right brain, and then the focus, and then to focus on that image, like to learn how to focus, to create a spiritual prototype of it. So yeah, so the first thing we want to do is we want to ask ourselves, like, what do I really want?
Yeah.
Like, what do I really want? What I really like to see happen in my life? After we do that, then we'd ask ourselves, who is the man, woman, or person that is producing that life? And then get busy into every day endeavoring to be them. Like, I had a serious quantum leap in my life where my life just changed very, very fast, financially, peace of mind, the whole thing. I was studying with Bob post 2017, and I was having a day where I was starting to get really frustrated with I was annoying myself is really what it was. Like, I was actually just annoying. I was bothering myself. And I went into my bathroom and I went like eye to eye with myself in the mirror. And I was like, who the hell do you think you are? I was talking to myself like this. Hey, have you ever done this?
Yes. And I love that. I love that advice. Of course I've done that. I mean, after my decades of living, sometimes I'll look in the mirror and I go, I do not care for the wrinkles or the brown spots, but I earned them. I love them. I have to really speak up to myself sometimes because I've done the same thing. Who are you? And what do you think you're doing?
Yeah, exactly. So I went like eye to eye, and I was like, and what I was talking to is I was talking to like my belief system. And I said, why? I said, why do you believe this and not that? Why do you like this person, not that person? Why do you believe this is true? Why do you think this is the best course of action for this? And what I did was I got rid of them. So what I began to do is every night I would lie in my bed and there was no Dave Conway. Gone. Just like the no thing. I would even see my body and it was just black. It was just no thing. And I would fall asleep in that state. And in the morning I'd wake up and I would fill my mind with the man that I wanted to be. And I would live that day, win, lose, or draw. I would go to sleep again, and there was no Dave Conway. And then I'd wake up in the morning again, and I would fill my head with the man I wanted to be. And it was a 2.5-page thing that I would actually hand wrote out every day. And I'd fill my mind with him, his belief systems. And then win, lose, or draw, I'd go to bed, I'd neutralize my mind, I would get rid of Dave Conway, no belief system. And as I started to do this, my income went from $5,000 a month to $100,000 a month. It went over $500,000 a month. Now that's just money.
Yeah. And other things came too, I'm sure.
Well, yeah.
All right, let's go through that process then. Is this part of what's in your 21-day manifestation program?
No, but you could try it. I think for some of us, we need an extreme radical abandonment of our belief system. I think we're spending too much time. It's almost as if like in life, we pick up all these backpack full of masks and we put them on and we have a hell of a time reconciling the masks. Well, what if you weren't you? What if you just got rid of yourself and you detached? This is detachment. You just detached from your, so don't tell my mother this. I don't know if she'll be listening. Like I was no longer Catholic. I was no longer anything. There was no Dave Conway.
How do you do that? How do you get rid of that belief? I'm curious, really.
You make a choice that
So
you are
when you
not
go to
going to
bed,
respond.
when you go to bed at night, you would just say, "Hi, Dave. You're no longer the Dave I knew," or how does that work practically?
Yeah, you go back into no thing. So you go to who you really are, which is the no thing, which is source infinite energy. Because your paradigm, like, understand this, your body will change. Your mind can change. Very rare for people's to, but it can. But your spirit never changes. Always expression. The spiritual part of you is always for one thing and one thing only, and it only expands. So I changed so much, Kim, in the first 18 months of doing that my wife actually had to sit me down because she didn't know who I was anymore.
Wow.
She had 33 questions. She interviewed me. She had to know who I was.
When you woke up in the morning after doing this, how many days did you do this, did you say?
Oh, like over a year, months and months.
And when you woke up in the morning, what you wrote down, was that the first thing you did when you got up was write down who you wanted to be that day? Was it different every day or was it the same thing every day?
Same
Did
thing every
you,
day.
did you, I'm curious because there's something called scripting. And I don't
That's
know,
what I guess you could call it that if you, yeah.
yeah, where you write down the same exact thing every single day.
Yeah.
That's so interesting that this whole concept to me, because I'm unfamiliar with going to no thing. So you're just going back to the Dave spirit, the Dave soul that has different names in different lifetimes, if you so believe in reincarnation, and then recreating, if I'm saying this right, who you want to be, who the Dave of the future wants to be. Would you put it that way?
Yeah, starting a new train of causation. So it's like our paradigm, we all have, well, I guess first fundamentally, you have to understand, do we believe there's a thing called a paradigm? And a paradigm is just another word for the belief system.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Right. So if we agree that there's a thing called a paradigm or a consciousness, right? Same thing. Your paradigm is, or your awareness, all the same word for different thing,
Right.
or different words for the same thing.
Yeah.
So if we believe that we all have a paradigm, or we all have a certain level of conscious awareness, then that conscious awareness is put into us at the moment of conception, half from mom, half from dad. Super gross idea, but we were there, present, and and then the environmental kicks in.
Right.
So I had this one really, really crazy experience where, so I'm a carpenter earning $5,000 a month, and I write on a card that I'm going to be one of the top consultants in the world with Bob. I'm going to earn $100,000 a month. I'm going to be a world-class mentor. I'm going to be a world-class speaker. I'm going to be a world-class at what I do, that my clients are going to get the best results of anybody in the world, because I am one of the greatest teachers of this information in the world. Well, that's a very polarized idea versus reality.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And as I wrote that out, what I began to realize is that can be produced naturally. So I'm producing my life naturally. I may not be enjoying it, but I am producing it. Who else is living your life, Dave, but you? And even at that event, I remember I was sitting there, and I remember looking around the room, and like, this sounds ridiculous, but it was very profound to me. I was like, I think my life might have something to do with me. Yeah. Because I think we habitually blame everything all the time.
Could not agree with you more, Dave. We go to that blame, that negativity bias, that it's everything else, it's everybody else, it's not me. But you recognized that it's all internal, it's all you.
Yeah, it's all me. But the thing is that that's not the real me.
Right.
So all these beliefs, they're not mine. They were given to me.
Right.
And I was sitting one day, and I was really, like, I was struggling. And what I did was, I felt this immense guilt about even the idea of earning $100,000 a month. And I remember what I found about the paradigm is, if you talk to it, it shuts it up. So I looked at it, and I was like, invisible, whatever. And I said, okay, I said, you appear to have a problem with me going after this goal. I said, what would you prefer I did? Nothing. Crickets. I said, is the best way to serve my family as a carpenter? Is that the best thing for me? Crickets. That idea was planted into me to be a carpenter at 21 years old. That's an idea. So at the time, something happened in my life, and I lost my confidence. I was kind of fragile, and I didn't really want to talk to people. So my brother at the time was working in a lumber yard. He said, I can get you a job at the lumber yard. So I said, perfect, because I could just drive the forklift and just be by myself and not have people. Well, that one single idea got me 13 years in an industry that I never intended on being in nor ever liked.
Mm-hmm.
But then responsibilities of life come in, and you have a family, and you got to pay the bills. And I'm not the only one that fell in. This is people's life. So when I realized that I was feeling guilt over an idea that's my brother gave to me at 21.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, if I never received that idea, would I even be feeling guilt about it? And then I started realizing that guilt is man-made. So I just got rid of them. I just got rid of them. There was no belief system. I stopped reacting to things. I stopped having an opinion on things. And I just said, who is the man that is earning? Who's the man living that life?
Yeah.
And I just started to pump him into my mind. And over time, I became him. And then I began to naturally produce all those results. And once I crossed the 100 grand mark, Kim, I never went back. I never went below that.
That is really remarkable. And you said something a little bit ago about the environment comes in after you've got your heredity, right? You've got your parental beliefs, because those are put into you as well, knowingly or unknowingly, in our DNA, don't you think?
Yes, 100%.
And so we've got that, and then you go out in the world and you hear those beliefs and those beliefs. And of course, depending on how easily influenced we are as humans, we are going to wear those or reject those. But most of us tend to believe, because that's the world in which we have been brought up. And I'm hoping that it's changing now, with a new generation. Like, your daughters are probably a lot different than your generation were, and then my generation, because and they're going to have issues too, because everybody does, but at least you're bringing into their awareness, you're giving them the opportunity to grow, probably, I'm assuming, into the human beings without trying to instill societal beliefs or your beliefs completely. And it's hard, because I was adopted, and I found out I was adopted as an adult. And I always wonder about the environment versus hereditary part of myself. And I'm going to try this. I really love the suggestions and the way that you morphed, transitioned, created a new paradigm for yourself. It's remarkable, really.
Yeah, it's quantum leaps and those shifts. It's all in letting go. So we're a lot of times, like, we don't even, like, most of our unconscious mind, well, that's what it's called, because it's unconscious. We don't know. So how do I know if an idea is in me? Well, by the way I react to it, because the subconscious mind is the emotional mind, or the feeling mind. So if I have a feeling or reaction to something on the outside world, I know that that's in me. So what's the fastest way? If I don't got all this time to go and try and uncover all my madness or whatever, then why not just let go of everything?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm sure that is challenging for many.
It's the hardest thing anyone will ever do.
Well, it is hard, because we have that constant buzz in our heads and the 90,000 thoughts a day. I say 90 because I know I have 90 or 100, whereas most people
you've got an extra 30,000.
I do. I got them all going on in there. And this is such a good exercise, because I believe that we hear and teach what we need to learn and hear. And so I'm fascinated. I'm sitting here soaking in every word like a sponge. And I'm so glad I get to go back and edit and listen to this again a few times, because I'm really learning so much. I mean, we are really nearing the end of our time together, although I could go on and on with you. I think you are fascinating, and what you do is so empowering and inspiring and necessary. So as we wrap up, do you work with individuals or just companies or groups? How do you work with people to assist them in achieving a new paradigm?
Yeah, so I work primarily with groups. So everything I do is through live event speaking, whether digital or in person. And then I run groups, and I've got some incredible coaches that are very, very well trained in the information that we're teaching. And I guess what makes Conway Consultant a very special place to be mentored in is there's three parts. So one is just the content itself. So lack of information is the cause of failure. So a lot of times it's the information that we don't have that we're missing. And it's the content we study that is profound. The second is just the delivery in which I deliver. I don't know. I don't want to speak arrogantly or whatever, but there's something going on over here. Like I have a gift. I can move information fairly decently into another person so that they sort of get something from it. Not just an excitement or a thrill, but an actual reflection of like or contemplation, more of a contemplative energy, which I think is powerful. And then the third is everything we do is all steeped in systematic study. So repetition of thought over and over and over, because this paradigm can be changed two ways. First is an emotional impact. So that's when something happens in your life and boom, changes you. And that's happened to me in 2017. That was a mass emotional impact. But the second way is repetition of thought. So repeated imagery over and over and over. And it's never been so easy in the history of mankind to control a human because of the images. All this thing is just an image device. So it's all just an image. It's a thought universe. And when we understand that everything in the universe is energy and all energy returns back to its source of origination. So if something going out, so what we need to grasp is that it's not that we're projecting solely, that actually what's happening is everything that's coming into our life is because we're actually bringing it in. So our consciousness has actually manipulated the energy and has formed it right in front of us. So if we start to change the inside, we can start to change what we're experiencing on the outside. And that's just how it is. There's just nothing else to it.
Oh, yes, but that's how it is. I know that, you know that, but the majority of the people out there don't know that. And it's like that quote from Mame, which is one of my favorite quotes, and I will butcher it, but the musical Mame. And it is, life is a banquet, and most of the poor bastards are starving to death.
Well, Bob used to say, he said, the good life's expensive. There's another way to live. It's just not that good.
That is such a perfect way to wrap up. Oh, thank you, Dave. And where can people find you? I will put it, of course, all of your information in the show notes, but let's speak it out to the universe.
Yeah, so just go to the website, www.conway.consulting. So I'll say it again, www.conway.consulting. And you go get the 21-day manifestation challenge. Like if anyone here would like to learn just a little better how to move the thought and the non-physical world into the physical world, and there might be an area that you're not seeing that occur, it's a great little starting course for everybody there to start to use, and a good practice, really good ritual, and it works.
Oh, I'll be doing that tomorrow because I'm fascinated. I try everything. I
love it.
Learn, and I love to expand my consciousness, and I know my listeners will too. So I appreciate you so much, Dave, and I am grateful to the forces that brought us together today because I love your messaging. I love the way you are moving energy with just your words. You have moved energy within me. I feel my spark even more ignited after speaking with you. And I know my listeners will too. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And listeners, wow. All I can say is I hope your energy was moved like mine through this wonderful episode with Dave Conway. I am so appreciative of his time and of your time for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode or any of my episodes, I really hope that you'll give me a 5-star rating like your Uber driver and comment and subscribe, because don't you want more people to shine their light, move their energy, and really just get out there and glow with happiness, finding their purpose and passion and sharing it? I do. Thanks for listening, and shine on.